Hello there, my name's Dan and I am a grower of backyard grapes. So I'm currently in the process of setting up a backyard vineyard, mainly to produce dessert grapes, but I have in the past given bunches of grapes away for wine to be made. So a nice bit of variety there. So I'm just going to show you the vine behind me, and this is variety Lakemont Seedless, which I've spoke a lot about in the past. Now this is from a cutting that I took from a existing vine a few years ago, about 3 or 4, something like that. So you can see down here, look, this looks absolutely lovely. This is the rootstock here. Okay, I say the rootstock, the cutting where which the vine has grown from. It's not a grafted vine, this is straight from a cutting, okay? Many of the grapes that you buy sort of commercially will be grafted. In fact, I will just show you. Right, here you go. So this is a vine I got from Ken Muir, an Essex nursery, and you can see the graft, which indeed is there. Look, you can see the graft in wax, and they've grafted that onto there. Same variety as the vine that I have just showed you. Okay, so it's against this southeast facing wall, which is very good actually, because what happens is the sun, hits the fence here, and the fence warms up, and then the fence sort of lets out some of the heat into the grapevine, onto the bunches of fruit that will hopefully be there next year, thus helping them ripen, get them nice and sweet, and encourage the vine to grow a little bit, maybe a bit quicker as well, because heat can act as a catalyst for plant growth. And if you think of a grapevine, you're thinking of something that grows, sort of traditionally you'd think of like in a warmer climate, such as, south of France, Spain, for example. But grapevines do need a period of dormancy, okay? This basically would be identified as when the leaves fall off during the sort of late autumn into the spring, and then the vine proceeds to leaf out. So they do require a period of dormancy in order to fruit. Now, intriguingly enough, by looking at this vine, you can see these little blister mite patches here. Well, my understanding of blister mites is they're actually harmless to the plant and the fruit. They just make it look unsightly, and a lot of treatments have proven not to be particularly useful against combating it, which is it doesn't make the vine look particularly good, but thankfully it's not actually harmful to your eventual crop, so that's a good thing indeed. Now that looks nice and tidy along the fence here. So this is up against an arris rail fence, okay? So you've got a post there, just down here, which you could see, and you can then see the other post just there. So it's probably about 8-9 foot across, maybe a bit more, and I want it to take over this entire fence panel. So I'll show you the way that I've tied it. Now this vine actually had a little bit of trouble. I think it was last year. Something broke it. I don't know if like a pigeon or something sat on the vine or whatever happened, but it broke it. And what I did was put some of this. When I say broke, it didn't break off completely, but it was sort of just hanging there by like almost looks like a few sort of strangly threads, if you will, scraggly threads. And what I did was put some of this beautiful flower arranging tape around it, which very much helped indeed to sort of fuse it. And you can see it's continued to grow up there, and this jazz here, this stuff here comes off of it, no problems. So quite happy. So the way that I've tied this, so you can see. So we come up from there, and what I've done is I've went naturally with the way that the plant was growing, and I've used this sort of like rose wire really to tie it around the arris rail fence post here, around that, the same up here and the same here, and I've put it around the fence post here, as you can see, and from this bigger one all the way up and all the way along. So I've done what I like to refer to as sort of hammocks here, look. So these bits that go underneath, I've tied it around so it droops and sort of holds down there. The same along here, and this one all the way along like that, as you can indeed see. So this should allow the bunches of grapes to lovely sort of fall down beautifully and the sun should be able to hit the bunches of grapes when they form and proceed to make them lovely and sweet, which is what I'm aiming for. And also, being spaced out like this, it allows it to be much easier for me to thin them if I wish, easier for me to pick them. One of the things you do when you can do when you get your bunches of grapes, ripening, is you can remove some of the leaves around them in order to let the sun hit the grapes to increase the sugar content. But you have to be careful you don't take off too many leaves, because of course the plant, photosynthesis, it likes to, it gains the nutrients for the bunches of grapes and the vine from the leaves. You've got to be careful, so don't remove too many. So I'm quite happy with how this looks. Now, this is a procedure that I've used, the way I tied this. I've used this before to great effect, and I've got a whole playlist on grapes if you want to have a look. But I had a monster vine at a previous address, and what I'm going to do is link that video, or one of the videos, down below, and you can see just how many bunches of grapes I used to get from that vine. Now, many people, they can sometimes get a little bit what I would describe as flummoxed when it comes to grapevines and pruning them and training them, because what they do is they look, in all these different ways. You've got all these Guyot methods and all these different ways. They go to a commercial vineyard and they see how the vines are trained, and of course, they need them like that because they need to be easy to pick. They want, maximum potential of each bunch of grapes, grapes to a good size, things like that. But if you're growing grapes in your backyard, is that really that important? Now, I'm not saying it's not. That's a matter for everybody else to make their own decision how they want to go about doing it. I'm very much a believer in that. But I like this sort of method, which I would imagine next year I'll be getting about 20 bunches of grapes off of this vine here, and I'd be very happy with that. A previous vine that I had, I used to get about probably over 100 bunches of grapes off of that vine, or at least I did one year, and it very heavily cropped every single year. Absolutely amazing. And the grapes off of Lakemont Seedless are almost honey sweet. They are particularly beautiful, and of course, hence the name, they are seedless. They are really a beautiful grape to consider growing. So, you can thin individual grape bunches. I was told that Monty Don did a thing on that on Gardener's World, I think a month or a few weeks ago. Can be worthwhile doing, but like everything, you've got to you haven't got to, but it's wise to think of your time. It's wise to think of what you're aiming for, what you can put in to your gardening regarding grape growing, whatever. Because, all right, you want to have a perfectly trained vine, and let's just say you're having one, and you're not going to get that many bunches of grapes off of it probably if you, train it in a traditional way. Whereas, of course, if you get a vine like this and you let it romp all over a fence panel and then you proceed to tie it in, I mean, there would be nothing stopping you if you wanted, as long as, you want to be getting the adequate amount of sun. You could keep going with this. You really can. I mean, I've seen some huge grapevines. A lady I used to know, a lady and gentleman, hadn't seen them for a while now, but they had a huge grapevine, incredibly sweet grapes, and it was massive. It used to go up over their pergola, up onto their property, onto their balcony. It was all tied in. I mean, I pruned it once, and it really was, to me, what a grapevine should be about. Just it's almost like a remnant of the older world, isn't it? You think of grapevines, you think of the Romans, you think of the history attached, you think of all that jazz that went on about the European and the US grapevines and the disease and this mite that ate the roots. You really want to look into it. But this is a way that I would suggest many people, if you want to get into grape growing, and you've got a fence panel, I would suggest many people go at it this way, because it's non-complicated, it's not time consuming. I know for a fact it produces masses of grapes, because I've done it before. Now, grapevines, when they produce bunches of grapes, what they do is they produce the grapes like off of tendrils, if you will, off of shoots from last year's wood, last year's growth. So if you think here, right, this is this year's growth, but next year it will be last year's growth. And what this will do is put out some little tendrils, shoots, and the grapevines, the grape bunches will be on that. So stay tuned. That's lovely, revving the engine there, thanks. And what you'll find is, you'll get some lovely bunches of grapes. So if there's any questions, please feel free to post them down below. Growing grapes in the UK is something that I feel very passionately about, and I feel that more and more people should get into it if they indeed can. One reason for this is particularly, it's very dry here in the southeast of the UK, and grapevines, they don't mind that because they put down long roots. And if you think about it, they're going down for their water. They don't mind poor soil because, again, the roots go deep. And I've also been told that, although you have to do your own research on this one, you can plant them up against a building where you may not want to with a tree, because what the roots apparently do is if they find an obstruction, they go round it, as opposed to trying to push through it like a tree root does. But don't go taking my advice on that. You ought to do your own research. I don't want to be accused of causing subsidence to anyone's property or anything like that. But excuse me. And one thing, people, I really would urge you to check out if you can, and that is the grapevine at Hampton Court. Okay, put it on the internet, on a search engine, and you will see, I think it's one of the oldest known grapevines in existence, dating back to the 1700s, and that's a huge vine, okay, and it produces masses of grapes. And who knows, the vine that you plant may be there in 300 plus years time. So there you go. Now I'm just going to pan the camera around so you can see how I've got it tied. Now I was going to have some either rose wire or this washing line on these screws all the way along, like that, to tie it to that. And I indeed could, like on that look, if I really wanted to, but I chose not to. I chose to tie it to the arris rails, because that's these. Because to me it just seemed like the right thing to do, an easier thing to do. If I want to paint the fence in the future with wood preservative or whatever, which is a very wise thing to do actually, because you don't want your fences to rot. I could untie it. I can pull the vine, this way if I wish, and then proceed to paint the fence. So very just a very practical, simple and straightforward way of tying up grapevines. Okay, any comments, questions or what's it's, post below. And if you like my work as normal, please feel free to like, share and subscribe. See you next time.